Good morning and welcome to Arise News Now. I'm Dina Campbell in London. It's Thursday, the 11th of July, and our top story at this hour. America is set to deliver 4 F-16 fighter jets to Egypt, despite the political unrest in the country, according to senior US officials. This comes as Washington continues to evaluate last week's removal of President Mohamed Morsi by the army. Meanwhile, Egypt's new PM has issued an arrest warrant for Mohamed Bardi, the leader of the Muslim Brotherhood. Pro-Morsi supporters carried on with more protests overnight. Julie Notche reports.
Another night of protests in Egypt, where a group of supporters of deposed President Mohamed Morsi attempted to march to the presidential palace. Several hundred people carried signs and chanted slogans while trying to access the road that leads to the palace. The march remained peaceful. At one point, demonstrators stood toe-to-toe with the military and voiced their opinions through a megaphone.
We do not acknowledge the military coup against our will.
In Alexandria, another pro-Morsi march. They killed our brothers during prayers, the protesters chanted. The country remains deeply divided over the military's removal of Morsi from office last week, with dozens killed in violent clashes. In Cairo, where Morsi supporters have been staging a sit-in, more violence could erupt later in the week, as his party has called for countrywide marches after Friday prayers.
And earlier I spoke to Erica Aisha Chavez, who's a Cairo-based current affairs blogger. I started by asking her, what's the situation this morning?
Well, this morning it's kind of quiet because it's Ramadan, so people are in bed after having stayed up all night to eat and try to get in some food before the sun came up. So Cairo's sort of sleepy like it normally is at the beginning of the month of Ramadan. Last night, the streets were full, and yes, there were plenty of pro-Morsi people in the streets in their special locations. But again, that's sort of when people go out during this time of year.
So we're hearing these reports that the US is going to be sending these fighter jets to Egypt. What's the latest on that?
Yes, the U.S. every year sends hundreds of millions of dollars in assistance or equipment to the Egypt military. It's a normal thing, and I'm not surprised that it continues to go on until the U.S. military, or until the U.S. decides that it was a coup or not. The military assistance will continue. However, if they do decide that what happened was a coup and not sort of a power shift, then that could dramatically change Egypt's finances.
And how are people reacting to the issuing of these arrest warrants to members of the Muslim Brotherhood?
Well, people who are in the Brotherhood camp are very offended. They're terribly mad. Although previously, when arrest warrants were issued, those people still continued to be on TV and on stage at pro-Morsi rallies without any difficulty. So far, many of the members who've had these warrants issued have been taken to jail, questioned, and then let go. So it's more of a, they bring people in, they question them, and this is sort of normal in Egypt as well. Their security apparatus and their military is very large, so they kind of have this power to go and arrest people at will.
Thank you very much, Erica. Now, Canadian police have said 30 people still missing after Saturday's train crash in Lac Mégantic are most probably dead. The head of the company whose train exploded, devastating the small town in Quebec, says the tragedy may be due to human error. Arise News' Tina Millman reports.
The head of the company whose oil tanker train exploded and devastated a small Quebec town last weekend faced the rage of local residents when he met with them to offer his apologies. 60 people are either dead or missing after a runaway train smashed into the center of the town and exploded into a deadly fireball. Montreal, Maine and Atlantic Railways chairman Ed Burkhart says he is sorry.
I understand the extreme anger, and beyond that, we'll do what we can to address the issues here. We can't roll back time.
He says he does not suspect sabotage and that the tragedy may well have been caused by a crucial handbrake not being set properly.
We think he applied some handbrakes. The question is, did he apply enough of them? He's told us that he applied 11 handbrakes, and our general feeling is that that's not now, that is not true.
The incident forced about 2,000 people, roughly a third of the small lakeside town of Lac-Mégantic, to leave their homes and seek shelter in local schools or with friends and family. Tina Millman, Arise News.
Accused Boston Marathon bomber Dzhokhar Tsarnaev has appeared in court to plead not guilty to 30 counts of using a weapon of mass destruction to kill, a charge that carries the death penalty. Catherine Jackson has more.
Facing charges in the worst mass casualty attack on U.S. soil since 9/11, accused Boston Marathon bomber Dzhokhar Tsarnaev arrives at a federal courthouse in Boston. Inside, a defense attorney for the 19-year-old ethnic Chechen enters a not guilty plea. Tsarnaev has been charged with killing 3 people in April by setting off homemade pressure cooker bombs in a crowd of thousands of race spectators and later shooting dead a university police officer. Authorities say the bombs were assembled by Dzhokhar and his 26-year-old brother Tamerlan, who was killed in a gun battle with police. Dzhokhar was found a day later, badly wounded, hiding in a boat in a backyard. According to court papers, he scrawled a note inside the boat saying the U.S. government is killing innocent Muslims. The marathon attack injured about 264 people, with many losing legs. Tsarnaev could face the death penalty if convicted.
Nelson Mandela is responding to treatment but remains in a critical condition, according to President Jacob Zuma. The 94-year-old anti-apartheid leader has been in hospital with a recurring lung infection for over a month. President Zuma urged the public to continue providing support and showering him with love. According to people who've seen him, the former president remains responsive. Now, the evacuation of Asiana Flight 214, which crash-landed on Saturday in San Francisco, was delayed by 90 seconds because pilots ordered passengers to stay in their seats. Safety officials have questioned the decision not to order the evacuation immediately. It's now been confirmed that some of the evacuation slides had inflated inside the aircraft, injuring a flight attendant and blocking emergency exits. The crash killed 2 passengers and injured 180 others after the Boeing 777 skidded to a stop. Visitors flock to Zanzibar as much for the island's natural beauty as to explore its dark history as one of the last open slave markets in the world. Nicole Sebecki has more.
Arriving in Zanzibar, the pristine beaches and aqua waters resemble paradise. Open-air seafood markets serve up the latest catch, while acrobats perform before the setting sun. Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, and Buddhism sit side by side in apparent harmony. But the main draw of the island lies below the surface, a chance to walk through Zanzibar's dark history as one of the last open slave markets in the world.
People used to make a lot of money through slave trade, and the country became very wealthy. And the slaves used to work very hard in the spice plantation until in 1873, when the trade was abolished.
From slaves to spices, and now tourism, Zanzibar has survived by adapting to evolving norms. But the scars of its history remain. In Stonetown, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, narrow passages lead to the old slave market, today the site of the Anglican Cathedral. Nearby sits the home of Tipu Tip, one of the most notorious slave traders in East Africa. And just outside the town lie covert sites used to hold and sell slaves long after the trade was abolished. The stories of torture and suffering here are plentiful. Some historians argue, though, that in their eagerness to draw in crowds, accounts of true horrors have been mixed with hearsay, and fable told as fact.
There was never a whipping post on the site that you'll be told that the Anglican Cathedral or the underground chamber, which was never an underground chamber to keep slaves. It was built, in fact, after slavery was abolished by the missionaries, essentially to store medicine.
Zanzibar's role as East Africa's best-known trading post for slaves and ivory, however, is undisputed, and it's the preservation of this memory that draws so many here.
I could see how people have suffered on this, how many people have died. I'm sure they even don't know how many people died during this operation. So it is extremely important to keep these memories for at least those who will come later will better understand.
For Minnie like Adama, understanding the dark acts that once took place here is as much a part of visiting Zanzibar as appreciating the island's bright, dazzling beauty.
Now to sport. Manchester United were greeted by hundreds of screaming fans as they arrived in Thailand for a pre-season game against the country's all-star team. The players arrived at Dong Mueang Airport in Bangkok this morning to begin preparations for the new season. Now, Wayne Rooney was among the squad despite rumours that he'll be leaving the club after 9 years with Manchester United. New manager David Moyes has dismissed reports that the striker is on his way to Chelsea and insisted he's not for sale. Now, Lance Santos, our sports correspondent, joins me now. So it's interesting that Rooney was with the squad there.
Yeah, it's really interesting, Dean. I mean, it's been one of the biggest rumours surrounding the transfer season, or before the season gets underway, that he's off to Chelsea. But I mean, Chelsea would be making probably one of their biggest mistakes Manchester United, would be making one of their biggest mistakes. Sir Alex Ferguson, if he was still in charge, would never let his rivals have one of his best players. I mean, even though they don't use him as much as they use Robin van Persie, I think it's going to be quite a mistake. So I don't think we'll see him going to Chelsea. Although, in saying that, Chelsea boss Jose Mourinho is quite a slippery customer.
Now on to cricket. What an opening day. A lot of wickets.
An amazing day. Very rarely do we get to see 14 wickets in one day. It just doesn't happen in cricket. It was fast, it was ferocious, but I mean, it was just everything. So we can take, if we have a look at the scoreboard from day one at Stumps yesterday, we can show you there now that, I mean, Australia are currently 75 for 4. That's after 21 overs. They're going to face a torrid time today. They need to get through the first hour. England made 215 all out. So not a great score from England. I can tell you, England have only made, the Ashes has been going on since 1988, and England have only made less than 215 on 100 occasions. And of those 100 occasions, they've only won 25 times. The problem is, Australia needed to score a lot more than they did now. So they've got an hour this morning, which is crucial. It's a cliche in cricket that the first hour is crucial in the morning. But when the weather's going like this, the ball's going to be moving quite a bit. These two Australian batsmen at the crease really need to stay in, dig deep and score some runs.
I bet. So Australia looked to have the edge on England first, but England now seem to have bounced back.
Yeah, thanks a lot to Stephen Finn and Stuart Broad, the fast bowlers for England. The ball, we had a lot of cloud at Trent Bridge. When you have cloud cover, the ball moves around quite a lot. So that really helped. Today it's a scorcher at Trent Bridge in Nottingham. So there's going to be a lot more bounce in the pitch, which it's crucial that these guys stay in. If England can get even more dig deep, get rid of these two, Smith and Hughes at the crease now, I'd say it's pretty much all England's way then today.
And what about Stuart Broad? Will he be fit to play?
Yeah, he took a knock on the shoulder yesterday. We said it was ferocious. They're bouncing. They're deliberately bowling balls at the bowler's head. So when the bowlers come into bat, they try and bounce them, try and hurt them and injure them. They did. They succeeded. Stuart Broad didn't play much yesterday when he came back onto the pitch. He was carrying the drinks for most of the evening. Today he's fit. He's been bowling in the net. So it looks like Stuart Broad will be playing.
So what sort of total will Australia be looking for in the end?
Australia have to be realistic at the moment. They're 75 for 4. I think they can still... It's all, as we say, it depends on Smith and Hughes at the crease now. They'll need to get up to around 250, get up to the England total. They'll be happy with that. Go back to the drawing board straight for number 1.
Great. Thanks very much, Lance. We'll hear from you throughout the day. Now, don't forget, you can contact us online anytime. We're at arise.tv. We're also on Facebook /Arise TV News. We're also on Twitter at Arise TV. You can also tune in on YouTube. That's the Arise News channel. Have you got any comments or feedback that you want to give us? We'd love to hear. Now, that's all we have time for now. Join me again throughout the morning and at 1 this afternoon, GMT, when we'll have the day's news, business and sport from around the world on the Arise News Hour. I'm Dina Campbell in London.